Well, look, my father got run over by a motorcycle when I was a kid, and he struggled with substance abuse. And of all the substances, he hadn't been on opioids at that point. At that point, it was alcoholism. But back then in the 90s, they didn't wean people off.
Nope.
So when they put him back
not in the 2000s either.
So when they put him back on the street, it was heroin for him, and he struggled with that right up till I got to med school, and we put him in a program, and he got clean. It's been clean since. So yes, there are reasons that their healthcare system reasons. Yeah. There are healthcare system reasons that have contributed, right, to the opioid crisis as well. So we have to acknowledge that. That's my point. We have to acknowledge the history to move forward. And unless we do that upfront consistently for a while, we're going to continue to face the challenges and the skepticism around vaccinations. I'm happy to talk about the science of vaccines if that can help people that are listening understand.
You taking this vaccine?
I already took the vaccine.
Oh, shit, I'm sick already. I'm going to be honest with you, because I'm just like every uncle black dude on earth. Like, I ain't fucking with it. Like, tell me why this warp speed, how a vaccine that would normally take 5 to 10 years of test trials is now available in 1 year. And then on top of that, there are COVID variants. So why did I take the vaccine if there are variants to the disease in the first place?
The vaccines are proving to actually defend against the variants based on some data we have from Israel. So the vaccine, so we can talk about how the vaccine works in order to show how it's likely defending against the variants. But let me go to your first question. For a drug that takes 8 to 10 years, a vaccine that takes 8 to 10 years to clear, why would we trust one that clears in a year? Well, let's understand the mechanics of why it takes 8 to 10 years. You know, the FDA and how the pharmaceutical industry works sets up interesting ways for the government to monetize that process. And so one, of course, primarily, I think the focus is always safety. On top of that, you have a drawn out process where we should be pushing cancer therapies more quickly, but we're not. So that's one element.
We talked about this at the state level. Yeah. You're right. Like, we could streamline things, but it's advantageous for us financially to kind of break it out in different ways. In this case, to some extent too. I don't want to say that a year is not fast. That's fast.
A year is fast. So again, the question then becomes, what are the benefits and what are the risks? And do the benefits outweigh the risk for all of society? And frankly, as individuals, you need to consider whether the benefits outweigh the risk for you and your family. So when thinking about the vaccines, the traditional vaccines, and I'm not going to get too deep because I don't,
go there.
Yeah, but I want to make sure that I can at least say the simpler version, and we can dive into the different types of vaccines. But normally, vaccines want to expose you to either the virus, a weak version of it, so that your body can develop an ability to fight it, right? Mm-hmm. That's a dangerous approach. You don't really want to do that because the virus could kill people, right?
It's win or lose.
Right. So that wasn't the ideal approach. In other instances, you take like a protein, like let's say if a virus is a human body, you take the arm, and you put it in someone's body so that it's only a piece of the virus and your body develops a way to fight it because it recognizes it. That's another way. The vaccines coming out now, Moderna and Pfizer, I'll focus on those. There's a third one coming out that's a little different.
That's Johnson & Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Pfizer's killing me in the market, by the way. But
yeah, and we have AstraZeneca too. So
Johnson.
So let's simplify this. So you have the cell is a home, right? The cell is a house, and they wanted to develop a virus that could get into the patio portion of that house, not on the inside.
A virus or a vaccine?
Sorry, the vac. Yeah, thank you for correcting that. Yeah. Thank you for catching that.
Develop the virus.
Yeah.
We already got the virus, bro.
We got the virus. We got to work on the vaccine.
Got you all in check.
You got me.
We got to work on the second half.
So, delete.
So again, so let's start all over. So you have your cell is a house. Each cell in your body is a house, and you have a patio area and you have the inside of the house. So the vaccine that's been developed is developed based on what they call messenger RNA. So messenger RNA is literally, think about it as a message from your DNA or from something's DNA. Mm-hmm. So the messenger RNA in the vaccine is a message from the virus. Think about it that way. It is. It's a message telling your body, like, this is how the virus looks. And so they put that inside. They find a way to attach that to a key. That key opens up the cell.
Now I react.
Right? So you get into the house, you get into the patio area, someone's grilling, right? The person grilling is grilling burgers. So
Cheeseburger?
protein, right? Yeah.
Cheese on it? Yeah.
Protein. So the messenger
Pork
gets
chops.
yeah. So the messenger gets inside of the cell and goes to this person, grilling, and it makes proteins. So bottom line is that messenger was going into the cell to tell your cell to create the proteins that look similar to the proteins on the virus. Mm-hmm. And what those proteins do is they come out and they start creating flags on the cells. So your immune system says, oh, that looks like something that's not normal. So your immune system starts to build an immune response to these proteins, but it's not the real virus. It's just a small component.
It's getting stronger.
Right. And the cool thing about mRNA vaccines is that your body becomes the factory. So rather than giving you one injection that will prepare your immune system, this one lets your body continuously produce for some time anyway.
Hey, it's scary as fuck right now because you just told me my body is altered for forever.
No, because it's RNA. So remember I said when you walk into that house, there's a patio area and there's the inside, right? Now, the patio area has someone barbecuing, but the inside has the 4-star chef, right? That's where your DNA, that's where the sauces are made.
Okay.
The Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines were developed in a way where that messenger, RNA, should not be getting into the inside of the house. It's only in that patio area.
Should not.
Only invited to the cookout.
Right. So when I say should not, I mean there's a key that would be needed to get in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
but it's not in this vaccine.
Right. So it doesn't go to the nucleus. It doesn't go to the inside of the house where the DNA is. It only goes.
Let's argue a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
400,000 dead people.
Yeah.
340 million Americans. Percentage-wise.
Do we not care about those people that died?
No, we definitely do.
Okay.
But not enough to mandate a vaccination, in my opinion.
So let's put in perspective. You want to put in perspective? Perspective is that men that are Black and Latino in Rhode Island, ages 35 to 44, right, have higher chances of being hospitalized than white people ages 75 to 85. Fact. Mm-hmm. Fact. Right?
Still won't take the vaccination.
So bottom line is when you adjust based on age and demographic, communities of color, maybe as a consequence of underlying diseases, but 35 to 44, you don't see as many anyway.
That's the
right?
tough part, isn't
it? Bottom line is our communities are being disproportionately impacted, ending up in the hospital and dying at higher numbers. There are Latino males are dying below the age of 65 at higher rates than non-Latino males in the state of Rhode Island.
But you're able to go to a deeper metric, right, as far as the numbers.
I'm making it real for the people listening, right? Because these are our communities.
We have to do this. Yeah. And this is why I want to talk to you about it. And I want you to do that. At the same time, we're still talking about 400,000 dead people.
Okay, let's put it in perspective. 400,000 could easily be 2 million.
But it's not.
Well, you know why it's not?
Why?
Because the states shut down.
No.
Yeah, because schools.
There are states that are open.
Some. Not all. Not all. So do the math, though. Mm-hmm. If all the states were open, if all the schools were open, it could easily be 2 million.
Let me argue with you about the 400,000. Mm-hmm. Now, the 400,000, how many of them are younger than 59 years old? That number drops proportionately. Why am I going to make my 6-year-old get vaccinated?
They're not recommending it for 6-year-olds. Right
well, what about my 39-year-old ass?
Well, I think what Lewis is saying is that people in your demographic, when you're Black and Latino and maybe disenfranchised, you may have pre-existing conditions, mm-hmm. and this vaccine may help protect those cells that may be predetermined and may avoid you from going to the hospital.
I heard that. I agree. But no. I don't want it.
So
I've been around COVID twice.
Oh, that's freedom,
I've been
baby.
tested
That's
twice.
freedom. Yeah. You deserve to die. You should allow
you
yourself to
have
die.
It's America, right? It's America, right?
Goddamn it.
Yo, can I storm?
Real.
Can I storm?
Comment last week, right? You was talking about free will. You have free will to die if you want to.
Yeah, you can definitely die.
Storm.
Go ahead.
Storm.
Go ahead.
But let's put this. So let's be real, because everyone listening
Right.
that's out there saying that the total percentage, meaning the incidence of deaths associated with COVID, is quote unquote less than the flu, are not recognizing that the flu has a vaccine, that the flu has had antiviral therapies, right? That the flu literally has there are programs around the flu.
Take the flu
Right.
shot.
We don't have that. And the only reason that we only have 400,000 deaths in this country, and total percentage wise it may seem small, is because states took extraordinary measures. Even if Florida didn't, that's Florida's problem. And even if LA did, but is still not seeing the benefit of that, which is probably a consequence of homelessness, which they could have addressed even before COVID, right? So there are reasons that states like California are still seeing high incidence rates of COVID, even though they took extraordinary measures.
I think there's too much nuance on that, and I just want to stick back to the vaccinations because I think that was interesting.
Yeah.
Can the vaccine prevent you from getting COVID?
Or the variant.
Well, so I'm going to answer that question, but I want to touch on this part. So the variants are showing more lethality. It's getting deadly.
Define lethality.
So bottom line, they can kill at higher rates. Okay, so the British variant, is actually some preliminary data from Israel showing that it can be up to 30% more deadly, and that's deadly, and up to 30% more transmissible. So it can spread faster and it can kill more. The Brazilian variant from Brazil is also showing signs that it can transmit faster. They haven't seen association with deadly.
Why would I take a vaccine?
So Israel showed that people who had the vaccines actually were protected against the variant. So that is a good sign, meaning that even as this thing is mutating, that our body's ability to produce a protein that prepares our immune system is actually preparing us against future versions possibly of this, right?
You're not invited to this part of the barbecue.
And also let me answer the other question, which is we are still learning about how long we'll have protection for the vaccines, if it's a year or more. We're also learning about whether it can just protect us in terms of like we get the virus, but we do not get symptoms, right? And
can't transmit it or something.
Or whether we can do that, survive it, and not transmit it.
Are you scared?
So I'm going to answer this question, then I'll get. I
want to ask the doctor.
Yeah. So Moderna, there's some preliminary data, early data. We don't have enough that shows that possibly it could actually prevent the virus from getting in your cells. Meaning your immune system, there's like protective measures that are developed where it won't actually infect you. That's great, right? If that's the case, because my biggest concern, my fear, is not for my life. And frankly, I've taken the vaccine, and even if I take and end up in a small percentage of people that, I meet, God sooner than later, I'm more concerned about my daughter.
Right.
Because my daughter's not going to have the vaccine. She's too young. She's 3. And so if I'm not careful, and in fact, I could be infected, but just would survive it, I could still transmit it to my daughter. And children, there have been children that died even at extremely low rates. Even more concerning before death is that there's this multi-system inflammatory syndrome with kids, and that can have an impact on their heart, which can have a lasting impact on their lives.
But you're a doctor here. And in my mind, I'm like, I want him to get it now. I don't know if that's ignorant for me to think, but I'm like, yeah, I want my 6-year-old to get it right now so that he creates the immunity. He creates the invitation into the barbecue that we were talking about earlier. But
But that's if that's all factual.
But it's all ifs, and that's science, right? Science matters when we can confirm it. But until then, it's just science.
Right, but also weigh the risk and benefits. So like I would rather have the vaccine and be
You would rather have the
smart
vaccine
and be
in your child prior to your child being exposed to COVID.
I would rather the steps and precautions that I take will directly impact my child, right? And so ultimately exposing myself.
You're taking the hero complex here,
It's my daughter.
But
It is his
It's my daughter.
I get it, but you can't control where COVID's gonna be.
I can control where I'm at.
Where you're at, but not her exposure to it.
Well, my daughter's not in school, so I know exactly where the 3-year-old is at every single time of the day.
And how much does that suck for her?
Well, she loves it.
Right now?
I mean, she loves being around Daddy a lot.
Yeah,
And that's the thing,
but that's not cool.
I have to be careful.
It's his family.
Yeah.
Why you
No,
arguing?
it's not. No, it's not. When they're at that age,
His daughter's not his
His
family.
daughter's not his family.
no, I get that point, but at that age, they need social interaction beyond their father, beyond their mother.
Right.
That
But
she's not
unfortunately,
gonna get now.
Unfortunately, it's not happening right
She
now.
may never go to a public school.
Well,
She
look-
may never never have classmates. That's not a win for her. It's a win for dad.
Why not?
It's more-
That's like
I
saying
know.
there will
It's
never
not.
be we will never be riding
because
horses ever
eventually
again with
she
these
has to
mechanic
go
things.
back out into the world that we were talking about that are dominated
The
by
world is totally
capitalists.
different from how we grew up to a 3-year-old right now.
Right.
But they need to know it.
Why are we doing this?
Well,
today?
she'll go back to a world and quickly learn.
She has an iPad, I'm pretty
as
sure.
long as in that world, people.
That is not the real world.
It is for a lot of the kids growing up, Reem.
That's bullshit.
No, you know what I'm doing with my daughter? I'm actually teaching my 3-year-old daughter notes on the piano, violin.
Yeah, we have no iPad
Megatron,
Friday.
And-
Megatron goes to
and-
people's house and
and-
plays video games.
We have no iPad Friday.
I'm taking this opportunity
Friday.
to teach her everything else that I wouldn't have had the time to really spend teaching her, not
I
the way
get the
that I'm
win
doing
as
now.
a parent
Yeah.
to be able to spend the time.
Why is that not a
with-
win for her?
Exactly.
It is a win for her as well. But eventually, you have to let that child go. That child will go off into the world on their own.
but not at 3.
I'm not saying at 3, but Kaba,
Wait. So
if I'm crazy, I'm crazy.
Reem, hold on, because it's almost about that time. So we gotta. Is there anything that you want to get up? Because I know you wanted to. You got stuff you got to do. So it's almost about that time.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate it. So, I just want to answer the concern. Look, at least as of now, it's pretty clear. You're within your right to take.